Good morning, fellow needle crafters. This is Evelyn of the Modern Needle. It is the 5th of June 2025. It is a very dreary day out here, so I thought it's a good time to film another video. I'm getting a new kitchen tomorrow, so I thought if I wanted to film something, I better put it in before all of this happens. The condo board said it'll be a day and a half to put the kitchen in, but it'll be much longer to put everything back to rights. So I thought I better get moving on a new video. So here we are. Grab your favorite beverage. For me, it is my morning coffee, as it is 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's still very quiet in the complex here. So I thought this is a good time. So let's jump right in. I have quite a bit of knitting to show you and a lot of other things, hence the Modern Needle name. I have a little bit of quilting, I have a little bit of sewing, and a few other things. I'll put them at the end. So if you're actually not interested at that, then just sign off whenever you would like. However, if you do like the content of the show, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment, give it a like, or subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos that I put out. So let's get right started. If you watched any of my past podcasts, you know that I knit for stores, I knit for private people, and I also do some quilting for private people, or I teach, or whatever it is that I do. And I've been almost non-stop. My needles have been busy since last August, and I found myself in March, middle of March, I believe. I finished all of my projects. I had no orders. I had nothing that needed to be done. So actually, I'm thinking maybe it was in April. It was just after Easter that I was done with all of my orders. And it was almost liberating. I think it was a little bit of an epiphany for me. And all of a sudden, I was burnt out with knitting. I just wanted to do smaller projects. I was just a little bit burned out, and all of a sudden then I realized that I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted. There was no deadline waiting for me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. There were no deadlines waiting for me. There was no upcoming project that I needed to fulfill, and I thought this was just fantastic. I can actually do whatever I want. So I did just that. And so I'm multi-crafty, hence the name The Modern Needle, because I knit, I crochet, I English paper piece, I quilt, I sew a little bit. I don't sew a whole lot, even though quilting has to do with sewing. It's a whole different animals. Now, my sisters, ever since I can remember, they were always interested in sewing. There was a time when my older sister sewed all of her own clothes, or a lot of them, like dress clothes for going to work and all of that. And when my children were younger, my younger sister and I, more her than I was just sort of the gopher for hand me this and hand me that. We were sewing little nighties or little shorts or things of that nature. We sewed some Halloween costumes, and they're sewists. I don't really find myself in that category. However, this month I did some of that. And excuse my voice as my illness progresses. It affects my vocal cords or my voice because everything comes up through my esophagus, which is giving me a hard time. So it does change the timbre of my voice, and there is nothing that I can do about it, and there is no such thing as waiting for a better day. Sometimes my days are better and my voice is normal, and most of the time right now they are not. So let's get going. What have I been doing knit wise? So what I had thought is I needed palette cleansers. Mother's Day came up. My mom is 96. Her hands are habitually cold. So I thought, well, why don't I make her some of the hand warmers that I have, or the fingerless mitts that I really, really like. And I'll show you what I did. So mom has the same thing in her hands as mine, even though hers are more crooked than mine. Mine are permanently swollen. My mom's hands are permanently bent. So I thought I'll make her fingerless mitts, but I knit mine with both of our illnesses in mind. So I used my favorite mitten pattern, which is called Luffe. I'll have that on my Ravelry page, and I'll link to that so you don't need to remember everything. But here is where the genius, or the, I don't want to call it genius, it sounds a bit presumptuous, but where your creativity sometimes gets you a little bit in a thing where you think, oh, that was way too complicated. I don't know why I did that, but I'll show you what I mean. So I made her a pair of mitts. They do look different because I knit them with our illness in mind, like I said. So easy to get into. There is no webbing here. Even with my swollen hands, I can find the opening and get in here. I made them a bit longer just so that her wrists are warm. And I made the top a bit higher. I put some ribbing in it. So if she's eating or whatever she's doing, she can fold it back and it's not in her way. And if she's sitting there doing whatever she's doing, she can fold it up. You can see that the loofah pattern has a gusset, which makes it a right and a left hand. Well, that was already my first issue right there. Mom is 95% blind, which means she only sees shadows. There is no way that she can differentiate the right from the left. I had this epiphany when I was done with the left. It was done, I finished the second gusset already, so I just kept going because all I had left was like the inside of the hand. So then I thought, well, what if I put a little heart, if I mattress stitch a little heart on the inside of the mitt? Seems like a good idea, but a blind woman is not going to see that. So, okay, that was a good idea while it lasted. Then I thought, well, maybe I need to put a knot on it on the outside. However, she also has sensory issues with her hands. So I left a little thread hanging out. This is way too complicated. These are going to be my knits. I'm going to remove the heart, and that'll be just fine. I'll knit her a new pair. But it did spark this journey on little palette cleanser. I actually loved knitting them. They were only 2 days or a day and a half, like 2 evenings, I think, whatever. It was pretty nice. So then I went on to the next pair, which I can't show you because I gave it away. Then came pair number 3. I had some yarn left over from a sock that I think it's called Campfire, that I knitted for the Little Red Mitten. This is Leo and Roxy yarn, and I already knit a pair of socks out of this, and it had a wider 2-color band on the top, I think, maybe cream and gold, the stripes sequence for the socks. But anyways, I had quite a bit of this left here. So I was perusing the internet to find a pair of mitts that do have a thumb gusset, because I do like them. I think that they fit better. But they didn't delineate the right from the left, because I think if I wanted to make a pair for mom, then that was going to be hard. So this here is a DK weight, and this was a fingering weight. So I went to the Pearl Soho website, and they had this ribbed, it's under watch cap knit. I'll link it, but it had the hat, the mittens, and the hand warmers in brown. So you just picked whatever, whichever you wanted in it. And it's actually a lovely pattern. I think it's written a little bit complicated, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But it turned out to be a really lovely pattern. So I like the 2x2 rip because it is a bit more elastic than just a regular straight stockinette stitch, and it looks pretty nice. And I can fold the top down. I have Raynaud's in my hands, so very often my hands from here on up, they get white or purple. I really don't have tons of feeling in it, so when I do have a Raynaud's attack, I kind of want to have it like closer to the top where I can just try to get feeling back into my hands. So anyways, I really like this pattern. I made a pair of self-striping with Croy sock yarn, which I gave to a very dear friend of mine. And anyways, then I had knitted a second pair already, because they only take me about, like I said, 2 evenings. I think they take maybe 5 hours or 6 hours altogether for my speed of knitting. And I just love them. So I made the second pair. Then my friend came over and liked the Croy self-striping ones, and I ended up giving her that pair. She goes home. She has a 12-year and an 8-year-old, I think, or 11 and 8-year-old. Shame on me that I forgot. But anyways, they really liked them. So I thought, honestly, I have so much yarn and I really don't feel like knitting a big thing right at this moment for various reasons, which I also get into in a minute. So why not just keep on with this trend of making hand warmers? So the beauty of the messenger app through Facebook, where you can call and you can see each other and you can talk to one another, few little yarn thingies, and one of her children selected this color here, and as you can see, it turned out lovely. It is fingering. It says sport on the label, but it is, in my mind, it's actually a fingering, and it's a rather thinner fingering. And the this is made in my size. It's the adult size, because the adult fit her daughter. And again, it's a bit taller. The kids really liked it, that I made the hand a bit taller so that they can fold it back or fold it up the way that they need it. And even my grandson likes them like this, because he finds when it gets cold outside, he likes the mobility of his fingers. So he wears the dollar store finger mitts under the hand warmers, which gives him maximum mobility and maximum warmth at the same time. My daughter uses these through the winter almost exclusively, because it leaves her hands free for texting. And I have watched a German YouTube video about a lady that also knits. I forget now what the podcast was, but she made a pair of mittens, like full mittens, but left her one thumb open like this, so that she doesn't always have to take the mitts off just to even turn the phone on, because this way she can use her thumb to start up the phone and then do whatever she wants to do, which I think is a fantastic idea. If I knit mittens again, that's exactly what I will do. And subsequently, I went to the dollar store. I found a little box that kind of fit these perfectly. So they're in there like this. I will add tissue paper this way here to make them look neat and pretty. And then I knitted the one for the smaller sister as well. And it is in this beautiful box here. And she selected this colorway. It's kind of the same yarn, but it is in a pinky sort of thing. And I think maybe in December, at the end of December, I had started a hat for my hairdresser, but it turned out way too small. And then I thought the collar is more, didn't really like it. So I put it on the side. I had already knitted up to here. No, I knitted up to where it is right now, I'm pretty sure. And I put it on the side, and I thought, well, if I have a kid in my orbit that sort of fits that size, I'll just finish up the hat and I'll have a very fast and simple gift. And I didn't really waste my time. I have lots of yarn. I don't need to unrip things that are totally good and sound. It just didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to be. So because she had selected this color, I thought, I have the hat. And she's 8. I think she's just a year younger than my grandson. So what I ended up doing is I turned it into a kitty cat hat. So I just used a crochet hook to bind off the edge on the top, which looks very pretty. And then I just stitched these triangle ears in it with a back stitch. So when she has the hat on, it will look like this. And it fits a child. And then, of course, I have many of these stitching labels. This one here has a heart. I don't know if you can see it properly. This has a heart, and this is, what does it say? Made with love. So the made with love I'll put on the inside. The heart will go on the outside. And I'll stitch it to the bottom here. Now I had already started stitching it and it kept moving around. So I had to open that a couple of times. So I use a small bull clip, or you can use a clothespin or whatever. If you sew, you might have wonder clips, and you can just stick it on like this to make sure that your edges are even. And then I will just use my yarn needle to sew this in. I'll do this side here, and then I'll do that side, and I'll just knot it on the inside and cut the knot, cut the threads around the knot pretty short. So if she ever wants to wash it and take it off, or if she washed it with the tag on and now it looks kind of raggedy, they can just cut it off and get rid of it, and then it doesn't matter. So anyways, so I have a deeper box for this one here, and this is how they will get these. So they just fit in here properly, pretty. I'll arrange that pretty with a tissue paper. I'll put a little card in it, and I'll say what kind of yarn I used, the washing instructions, and how long it took me to make these little mitts. This is usually how I like to present most of my gifts, because I think if you just hand it over, doesn't really get, not the oohs and ahs that it deserves, but maybe the respect that it deserves. Me being a very fast knitter, I find people treat it, oh, it only took you like whatever, like 2 evenings or 3 evenings, where I think, well, that's still my time. It gets valued even less sometimes as a homemade product because it didn't take me months and months or years and years. I don't really know what the expectation is from people sometimes, not quite reasonable. But, anyways, this way I do feel that people do value the gift, and it wasn't giving as an afterthought, so it's not treated as an afterthought. Then I had moved on from there. My nephew, who is a grown man, he's 44, I think. He works for UPS. I showed hand warmers for him before that I had made. And he likes these hats that are just plain hats. He does, I don't have a pet, but I have my own hair that keeps falling out. Um, he likes these hats that do not fold up, that just have a brim, like not even a brim on the bottom, that are just flat. So I had bought, his favorite color is purple, but it's a particular purple. It's more like an aubergine kind of purple. The camera makes it a bit more purpley. It has more yellow in it, but it's a variegated little bit of yarn. It has flecks of blue and lighter in there. So this here is called the hubby hat. I think you cast on 100 or 120 stitches, and you knit 19 centimeters, and then you decrease the crown in every row until there's 12 stitches left, and then you bind off. It is a free pattern, the same as the Pearl Soho is also a free pattern, and the hat is lined. So I think maybe last time I showed, I made a hat out of this yarn, this sock yarn here, for my son. And I had a little bit left. I planned to do hand warmers with it, but I just love the color, how it looks luminescent through here. So I ended up making it a second color on the inside, and I'm not really sure if he likes this on the inside. My son thinks maybe, but I just couldn't help myself adding it. So I left a pretty wide brim. So if he doesn't like it, he can wear the purple on the outside. And that is perfect. It was a very fast knit. I was surprised. I knitted this on 3mm needles. 3mm needles, yes. I think the hand warmers are knit on 3.5mm needles, but this one here was a 3mm. But you just knit round and around, and it's maybe twice the stitches that you have on there for socks. Now, for this fold over brim, I did 2 rows of pearls, and I used a Turkish, did I use a Turkish cast on or Judy's Magic cast on? I think maybe actually I did Judy's Magic cast on. And then it kind of hides any imperfections that you might have on your cast on. If you do the rows of pearls, I did 2 rows of pearls, and it really gives the hat a stable bit to fold over, and it stays folded over. There is no rolling or anything like that. So he will get that whenever I see him next. He lives up north, so maybe in a couple of months. Then this is a bit of an older project, I think, but still within the last 2 months or 2.5 months. I just wanted to knit. I didn't want to have a big project until I figured out what is it that actually looks good on me, like what should be my fit be. Because I'm on 12 different medications every day, I gain weight arbitrarily. I don't really know which of the medications that it is that does that. I have the rheumatoid arthritis, and I had a heart attack now 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. So there is things that I will be on for the rest of my life, and um, I think when I hit maybe 1x, or yeah, maybe 1x, the tendency is that you just knit a bag for yourself. Not too many, not too much shaping, not too many, no waist shaping or anything, because you just want to hide everything that is under there. I mean, I have an apple shape, and then because of the rheumatoid arthritis and its complications that are within it, my feet have these weird bumps and stuff. So anyways, um you just kind of want to hide what you have, and I thought, well, I'm really kind of too old for that. So not really too old, but I thought I wanted to figure out, I can't change the fact that I'm getting bigger. So what is it that I really want to wear that kind of highlights the garment, myself, and not just being big? I might as well live with that because it is the new reality. So I was looking at structured garments, and I was trying to research. So apple shapes, what should they wear um, to kind of highlight and celebrate that shape. So the consensus is like you do need to have a little bit of shaping. You need to have structures on your shoulders, so nothing over cut where the shoulder is down here, because it makes you look like a sack. Um, I haven't fully formed my mind yet on how I want that to be, but I do think that a bit more structure is the way to go. And while I feel like really not making anything like that at this particular time, it's a good time to research what looks better on me. So, anyways, I was on the Pearl Soho website, and I found this triangular. It's not a triangular shawl. It is a, kind of have to move this a little bit. It is a square, and it's knit on the bias, but it is worn as a triangle, and the colors are they are triangular like this. Everything is still on the needle, so it kind of bunches up, but it'll fold as a triangle, and then you have the two colors, and it's really pretty. I had bought this yarn on sale at the Little Red Mitten. It is a laying yarn. It is incredibly soft. It's 80% wool and 20% polyamide. And then I had some yarn that I had bought from Turkey. It is an ice yarn. It is a maroon, kind of with darker bits in it. It feels kind of like a mohair. It's not as soft as this one here, but once it's washed, I think it will relax, and they're both quite soft. So it's a 50 wool, 50 acrylic, which will be perfect. So I'm getting to the end. The way that you knit this shawl is you knit all 250 some odd stitches, and I seen it on, did I see it on Edible Thoughts Makes? Maybe. As I knit, I usually watch podcasts. So you knit on all of your stitches, and with the short rows you go to almost like 3 stitches, I think, and then you start with the second color and you increase them coming back the other way with short rows. And I just use, because it is a garter, I just use the wrap, because you don't really need to pick up the wrap when you stitch through them in the garter. You can just knit right through it. It has a pretty nice line. Let me see it. In here. I'll show it to you when it's all finished. I don't have tons to work on here anymore, so that'll be pretty nice by the time it's finished. And I can use it as a smaller blanket when I just sit on the couch and I'm cold. Like the other day, I think it was 26 or 27 degrees out here. I had to go to bed and have my big heating blanket on. I could not get warm. Now inside the house it's often cooler than it is outside. Maybe I should have just gone outside and moved a bit, but my body was just out of sorts. One more thing that I wanted to show, I tried a different hat for Robert. This hat here, and he has a small circumference head, so I used a smaller hat, and this here is a 1x1 rib, but I do think that this is too small. So again, instead of undoing it, I had lots of this yarn, I will leave it like this, and then when I do need a smaller hat, I'll just keep going on this because there's nothing wrong with it. I have tons of needles, so it's not a problem. Even if I would need the needles, I would just pull a cord onto here, mark what needles I'm working with. I believe these are 2.75s and they're the cubics, and I broke one of them, so I have cubics and a round one in here, which is fine. And then I'll just, when I need it, I'll already have a good start for a new hat. And then I had my last customer order, which is a petite knit, and it is the Lulu slip over. It is a paid for pattern. It is, I think, $11 almost Canadian. She is a Danish maker. I believe she's Danish anyways. And it is a slip over. And the slip over is open on the sides and has a button band on the top. So it's very pretty. The lady that I knit this for, they have her daughter or daughter-in-law has their own sheep. So they sheared the sheep. They had it milled in here in London, Ontario, somewhere. I forget what she said. And then this is the natural color of the sheep, and I knitted this for her. It is heavy. It is very beautiful. So I do have to say, the petite knit patterns are a bit more expensive, but they're quite good. The shoulder here is quite beautiful, the way that the shoulder is knit. The neckline comes up a bit higher. However, my customer likes a loose neck here, and I think I can put it on. I will show you how this looks. So it pulls over like this, and then you have the two buttons here. This is, I believe, an extra large, and I'm a 2X, so it would kind of fit me. And then it kind of stays open on the bottom here. It is very beautiful. I did have to look. This is an enclosed. You double knit this bit here, and I've double knit a few times in my knitting career. I think when I was younger, I did it a couple of times by accident. And then realized that it's actually a knitting technique. I think for me, it was just a runaway fisherman's knit, of where all of a sudden I had two different sides, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe I invented something, but I really didn't. It's called double knitting. So, anyways, it is very pretty, and I will bring that to her sometime this week, which is quite pretty. So I'm thinking this is the end of my knitting. And again, this is all in my Ravelry pages. If you want to, I will link to the Ravelry page, and then you can go and have a look at it if you have any questions about that. So showing you the knits that kind of went sideways a little bit, yet they're fine. Have you had any of those adventures? I can't be the only one that just kind of that happens to. So leave me a comment and tell me what is it that went sideways for you, or what didn't quite work out for you, or what are your thoughts on that? Do you unrip everything, or do you just leave it like I do and then use it whenever the whenever the whenever it comes up that you need it? Um, so that was my knitting. Then ah, I went to Stitch North in at the end of April, which was I think the second. Now I don't even remember if it was the first or the second week, and it is in Brampton, Ontario. It is hosted by Evertote. They design patterns, they dye stitching fabric, and they dye stitching floss. And the stitching floss, Carrie is the dyer behind the Roxy & Co. stitching floss. She used to be at the Little Red Mitten, and then their partnership had ended, and they have the Leo and Roxy yarns. So now it's just the Leo and Roxy yarns and the Roxy & Co. floss. The one is a sheep, the other one is a bird, and I think Carrie has the birds and Jolene has the sheep. So she dyes the floss up there, and they host a knitting retreat. I want to say that they have moved to 2 seasons in the year and two retreats each. So in the spring they have 2 retreats, and in the fall they have 2 retreats. I think they have 2 retreats in the fall. And if you've never gone to a stitching retreat, it is quite something. Any retreat, knitting, quilting, stitching, if you make one with your friends, I think anytime you have the opportunity to meet with like-minded people and you have the money to go. It is a lot of fun. I find it's everybody is friendly and welcoming. I don't know people that had bad experiences, so I can't really speak to that. I find them fantastic. So getting ready for the cross stitch retreat, and of course you don't just need to cross stitch, you can sit there and knit. When I was tired I was knitting, or the lighting wasn't very good, I was knitting. And I thought, what is it that I need to pack? So normally when we go somewhere, the whole suitcase is full of stuff. My clothes get a little tiny bag. Like if I packed everything that I want to wear, that's great. If I don't, I actually don't worry about it. I usually, in the beginning we had way too many clothes plus too much stuff, so we tried to whittle it down. So I went through my projects that I had kitted, and I do that in a way with whatever it is that I do. If I have a plan, but especially for stitching, if I have a plan, I want to stitch XYZ, I get my project bags already and fill them with whatever I need. I put the floss in there that I need, and I put the chart, the floss, and the fabric. And being a lover of color, I can't just have regular fabric. White, I have not stitched anything on white in a very long time. So last year when we went to Stitch North, I stitched this mandala. I started stitching the giraffe. I'll bring it a bit closer so that you can see how beautiful it is. Sorry for the wrinkles. Um, it was a very fast stitch. It was quite beautiful. I started it while we were there and I finished it within a few days of coming home. So I thought, okay, so what is it that do I want to take something that I had already started, or, and I do have quite a few things started. What is it that I want to do? My plan was I'm going to take 2 or 3 things that I had started and then I'm going to work on it there exclusively. Well, I looked through my stuff and I felt like because I was still a bit on a burnout mode, I really didn't feel like doing anything. So I thought, why don't I kit a new thing? I looked through my kits and again, nothing really spoke to me. Why don't I pick one that I'm absolutely in love with? I'm going to stitch on that and I'm only going to take that. That was a rather great idea. So what I did is I went through my charts and thought, what is it that I have some charts that are on the back burner. What is it that I want to, no, I took the chart out from here. Oh, I didn't have it on as a paper. I only had it as a digital chart. So I decided I'm going to stitch him. It is a cottage garden samplings chart, and I believe he's called a stag. So I started him and I dyed this fabric here myself. It is Aida fabric, which means it has, can you see it, these little squares on it, and you take 2 threads of floss and stitch over one of these little squares. It is a 14 count Aida, which means 14 little squared boxes are in 1 inch. And I had previously dyed this fabric, and I dye all of my own fabric, and I sort of thought, where do I want to have the darker and where do I want to have the lighter? I think the fabric worked out really well. I stitched, I think, part of the leg while I was there, the 2 days, because you visit a lot too and you chat a lot. And then when I came home, within 3 days I finished him. I just love how he turned out. And this cottage garden samplings, they have 12, I think it's a 12-month chart where she has different animals that are kind of like that, and then of course they're a little bit exaggerated or fairy-like or whatever. So the next thing that I picked, because I stitched him so fast, was the fox. This is the fox here. And I had already pulled together the colors for the fox. I also have the crow, and I already kitted that. Of course, when I decided to do the stag, I did not have, that wasn't kitted. I just went to, very fortunate to be in a place where there is stitching places where you can just go and get the floss that you need. It only needed 12 different strands of floss. Like, it's $1 something for, just over $1 for the floss, so it cost me $12. They didn't have all of the floss, so quick shout out to my sisters who are also stitchers. Do you have this and this number? And they said, okay, so let me check. And of course they did have it. And I have to say, my sisters are the best. They brought it, and it was fine. Then one of our other stitching friends, we're a group of 10 stitchers that stick together all the time. We're from Southern Ontario, and meet every so often. But I also have a stitching sister here that's in London. She says, well, if you ever run out, just give me a text and or call me or whatever. That was fine. So I was well looked after, and since I do dye all of my own fabric, that was just fine. So then I had started the fox, and you can see him here. I just started the house. If you need to have the original picture to see where I am. Can I see? Yeah, it's in the picture, I believe. That's where I'm at. So I believe the next time I have another video, you will see him finished, her finished. I think she's quite beautiful. I changed one of the colors because the green for the tree wasn't quite as, it was more a bluish green, and that did not really show up here. So had to change that. I had to unpick this little face here 5 times, 4 or 5, I don't know, a few times, because I just couldn't stitch properly. And then I realized I made a mistake on the body here as well, and but I kind of fudged it. There was no point in unpicking it. And if I show you the original, you can see the brown that's around the body here. There's more brown in here than there is on mine. I don't really know. I think I missed 2 or 3 rows, which presented the challenge to figure out the tail, where there is 2 or 3 rows that I completely missed. But my brain's smart that way. I can fix that. I wasn't really going to unpick that. It's going to hang on my wall. And unless the original is right beside it, who would know that I made a mistake in there? So that's absolutely not a thing. But then when I was getting ready to go, before I had picked the steg, I was thinking, well, sorry, what is it then that I want to take? And they have a freebie table there where people use fabric that they don't love, or patterns that they had already stitched, or magazines, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a cross stitch thing. It could be a quilting thing. It could be anything crafty that you don't want. There's a freebie table where you can just go and help yourself. You leave something, you take something, or you just take something, or you just leave something. Oh, okay, so I can show you these if you want. Now I had thought I brought it, and I did not. Give me 1 second. I did bring it, but it was buried under some other stuff that I wanted to show you. So last time I took something from that table, and it was a piece of fabric. And the piece of fabric was a cream colored piece of fabric. And then I thought, when you go to retreats and you want to stitch, it's often easier to stitch on something monochromatic, which means 1 color or maybe 2, but where you don't have to super pay attention. You can just do your outline and then fill it in, etc. So somebody had left this on the table, and it was a white piece. And then I thought, what if I do a Halloween piece? And then of course it needs to be orange, and I wanted it marbleized and. So I dyed this piece of fabric here. Just quick and pretty quick. If I mix up a dye and I have too much that I don't need, I just fill it in old little Coke bottles or the smaller apple juice bottles, and then I just keep it, because in reality, like the dye itself is chemical based. It doesn't go bad, it doesn't matter. So I just leave it in there, and then I use it up when I want to dye something. When I dye with yarn and I put it in my pot, which is a stock pot from the secondhand store, and I only use it for dyeing, the yarn almost absorbs all of the color, and the water is clear after. With dyeing fabric, that's actually not quite the way that it goes. And because I want it marbled, I don't want to have an all over smooth effect. I do want the marbleization. That's actually not how I dye it. I wet it, put vinegar in the water for wetting it and soaking it, and then I crunch it up and really crunch it up. Most of the time, I crunch it up like this. I grab it by the corners and I just crunch it up like that. And now just imagine that this is wet with vinegar water. And the reason why I use vinegar in there, you need to have something that makes the color stick to the fabric, whether that is wool or it is cotton or whatever your medium is that you want to dye. You needed to stay on the fabric. I use vinegar. You can use food grade citric acid, which is the stuff when you eat like the sour keys or whatever, but you can buy that. But I always have vinegar here. I don't always have citric acid here, and it works well for what I do. So anyways, so I have this, and if it's wet, it's even tinier, and I stick it in a plastic cup or in a glass, and then I pour the dye over it, or I already have the dye in it, and I leave it sitting in here. And because it's crunched up like this is where the marbleization comes from. Then when I unfold it, and I think, oh, there is too much white in here, I might crunch it again a little bit looser and stick it back in for a little bit to give the other bits just a little bit of color. And here you can see like somebody had already stitched something on here, and I didn't really want to unpick that because it's a tiny count, and you can see the cream color under here because it didn't penetrate that. So when I will stitch on this, I will just cut this bit out and throw it away because it's too hard to unstitch. There is no dye under it, and I'm actually not concerned about that. It was a free piece of fabric. And I had some purple left from the last time I was dyeing, and I used the same bits. These are all the bits that were in that freebie thing, so that can be a bookmark or something. I thought this would be quite moody for, I put it in the orange first so you can see a bit of that orangey glow, and then I put it in the purple. And then I used all of the purple color until there was almost nothing left. So this, not the purple, sorry, the orange. So this is almost like a light peachy thing. And I used all of the dye. So by the time I was done with it, there was almost nothing left. This is a very light peach, and then I dipped it in the very light purple. And then I had a bigger piece of the marled, and I put some orange in here as a creepy kind of sun or whatever. I don't know what to stitch on here yet, but I'll figure it out. Got a few more of the darker bits. That would be nice with a glow in the dark. And in here I also have a green piece that I dyed a couple of years ago, last year maybe. I seem to go in these phases. So this was a darker green, and oops, the same runoff green from this bit here dyed this bit. Also stormy, moody, that can be for anything. And then when you do stitch things on it, let me see where I stuck that. Oh, already took it out. You get things like this. This is a free Barbara Anna that I stitched. Did I date it? 2022. I was going to say last year, but obviously I'm off in my time. And again, that was a really pretty stitch and a very fast stitch, and I only used things that I leftover bits of fabric, or sometimes you buy some that's on sale and it doesn't have a label on it, that sort of thing. um, this one here is called the Fox Miller's Inn, I believe, and it also has a piece of my dyed fabric on it. Now this probably took a few years because I'm not a prolific stitcher, I don't think anyways. This piece here I had showed before on one of my first podcasts, I believe. But this is a tea dyed bit. So it's not orange pekoe. Orange pekoe, I tea dye this with tea. Orange pekoe gets a bit more of an orangey bit, and this is done with Earl Grey. And again, the same way that I dye everything, I soak it and then I crunch it to get a little bit of marbleization in it, which is kind of pretty. And here is a bit that's the cutoff from one of those bits and pieces, you can see. And this is a lighter purple. And then I must have had some darker, either black or blue left on the bottom. And it is a lot of fun dyeing things that way. And then of course I keep it in the project bags that I sew myself and that I do sell on my website, which are very pretty. So let's see. Oh, I did finish one more that I had. I thought, okay, so before I start the fox, I need to finish something, because most of the time my things, when they're started, I get them about 80% and then I quit. And then it lingers for a bit. So this here is my Canada sampler. It is a cooler design, I think. I list it on the notes below. And again, that was also my own tea dyed fabric, and I finished that. So I was quite happy with all of that. This is the stitching news. And then I have a lot of fabric. I used to teach quilting. I still do the odd time I quilt on and off, or I teach quilting on and off. So I have a lot of fabric. So I thought I should be doing something with that. And I love quilting, actually. I love the straight sewing. And I thought I'll make couch quilts and then rent a booth at a fair in the fall and then just sell them for a reasonable price, because I've had the fabric for years and years. I don't necessarily need to get the money back for the fabric, but I just do it for the love of doing it and cleaning them out. And I had settled on simple blocks. Oh, before I talk about that, I did have, like, some of the dyes that I use are just from the dollar store or Dollar Tree. They are these kind of dyes, but any dye will be fine, because I never need lots. And I use that to dye wool as well, but you need to add vinegar into it. I usually don't measure. I just pour a good wallop in it, like sometimes I have a cup a bit more, and it makes the fabric stay. So anyways, so I thought I'll do some simple blocks, and I wanted them all to be like 10.5 inches. And I just wanted low volume, and I do have a bit of a hard time with just doing low volume because there are so many colors that I like. So these are sort of the blocks. They're all trimmed to 10.5 inches. They don't need to be exactly straight. Some of them are orphan blocks from things that I had left over from something else. Let me see if I have some star blocks in here. Oh, maybe not. But I just wanted to have simple blocks, and I use 12, 15 blocks. in each quilt, so they're not huge. They're, some of these are orphan blocks from other things that I had left over that I put in there. And I believe I have sewn enough for 4 little quilts to put together. And in the meantime, as the weather gets warmer, I have bought some dresses. And unfortunately, they did not have pockets in them. So the dresses were they're all cotton in various forms, cotton and linen, or just cotton, or cotton and poly. So what I did is I ended up opening the side seam here. This here is almost like a seersucker kind of cotton gauze cloth. I opened the side seam. I put my hand on my dress where I would want the pocket to be. My son helped put a pin in there, and then I put my hand on a piece of paper. I drew around it and watched a few YouTubes on how to do it. Did it the first 2 pockets, I did fine. And then my brain did a funny thing, and it does that a lot of the time because it's just, I said before, sometimes I have an issue following a pattern. Well, my brain completely hijacked what was going on here, and I thought I know how to do it, and I know a shortcut, and I know a better way of how to do it. And oh my God, I got so turned around in my own creative thinking that the next 2 pockets I buggered up so bad, it took me 2.5 hours to fix what I did. Doing it wrong like 3 or 4 different times in my fix. It was just unbelievable a little bit. So I just almost had to turn my brain off. I had to go take a shower, leave it, and do something completely different. And then I went back to it because I was not having a good time. And one of the things that I forgot is that with these seams, that once you sew the pocket together and then you turn it inside out and do a French seam so that your pocket is kind of clean on the inside and clean on the outside, not that it matters, you're actually making this, sorry, get the pocket back in here, you're actually shortening this bit here of where the hand goes in, and all of a sudden it was too tight because I had too many seams going on all at the same time. So on my consequent pockets, I didn't do a French seam. I just zigzagged around this bit because you sew the 2 pocket halves in first before you combine them, so that everything is easy and smooth and all of that. So that was a bit of a learning thing, but I did 5 dresses and they turned out rather neat, and I thought I'll pass that on just in case that any of you, it's kind of warm in here so everything sticks a little bit. I use contrasting colors because why wouldn't I? I love colors, so this is just my thing. So they did turn out rather neat, and I used, there was a powwow at my grandson's school yesterday, and I wore the dress because it was 29 degrees out there, and I was ever so glad that I sewed the pockets in. I'm not a purse carrier, so this was just the thing for me. And as if I didn't have enough things going, I went to the dollar store, because very often I go to the dollar store to see what can I misinterpret and what can I miss doing. They had these puzzles there, and these puzzle pieces here are made out of wood. They're $5 Canadian, and they're from the Dollarama. I usually go to the Dollar Tree, but it was on a Dollarama thingy. I needed push pins for my design wall, and I had wanted these for my son's girlfriend because she loves puzzle, and they're I looked at them years ago, and they're made out of wood, these tiny pieces. And you can see it's just thin plywood. And they're very, very pretty. But they were like $40, $50, and that was on sale. And they're not huge. So they had all kinds there. These are the different kinds that they had. And we weren't, okay. Then I met with my sisters later that day, and I said, well, you know what? I seen these puzzle bits at the Dollar Tree, and they do a lot of puzzles. I tend to not do a lot of puzzles, but they do. And it even comes with the easel bits so that you can stick it on there when you're finished, because it kind of looks like this. So we all went to the Dollarama and we had a look at them, and they still had a few of them. So both of my sisters bought some, and we thought the ones that we know we're not going to mount, maybe we'll just buy one and then do it, put it back in the box and give it to the next sister, and then she does it and puts it back in the box. That way we get the joy of putting them together, but we don't all have to buy them because we're all about reducing our stuff. So that was actually pretty neat. And even my son, who has no hobbies, the 27-year-old that lives with me, he suffers from schizophrenia, and sometimes his brain is quiet and sometimes it's not. But he put a few puzzle things together, which was kind of neat because I don't see him doing any of that. Now, I bought two. I bought the owl and I bought the wolf. And of course, they're always more beautiful than they are. They're more beautiful when you look at them than when they are on the paper here. And I have to tell you, I don't do puzzles a whole lot. I do puzzles sometimes on the phone, but not in physical form. And this here is how they come. This is the wolf. If this would not be printed ahead of time, so my sisters, they did some of theirs in, I think, in a few hours. But if this would not be printed ahead of time, oh my goodness, they would be such a challenge. Even though the pieces are just gorgeous. Like you can see there's little animals, there's little suns, there's little blobs that don't really mean anything. But they're really pretty. But if you wouldn't have if that would have not been pre-printed on the background, I think, oh boy, this is going to take me like years to do all of this. Like my sisters who do it more often, they're way better at it. But myself, oh boy, yeah, I think I would have been completely stuck. So as you can see, mine's been out for a week and I haven't really progressed because I've been doing other things. But I do enjoy making all kinds of things. So I believe that is a wrap for me. I showed you everything that I have here that I've been doing in the last 2 months, month and a half, whatever it is, since I posted last. And I have questions for you. Do you craft anything besides knitting or crochet? Or do you knit and crochet and do the Afghan stitches? Do you sew? Do you quilt? Do you have any other hobbies? Do you paint? Do you do calligraphy? There are so many other beautiful hobbies. Let me know. And let me know about your fails, like where you think, I don't really know what was going on in my brain. Like when I was doing that pocket, I was like, oh my God. Evelyn, how? Just follow the instructions. They're right there. Do you ever have one of those moments where you think, wow, I think maybe I just need to go to bed for a minute and calm down and then come back and do something and then see where I'm at? Or like I said, so when I have knitting things, I think if I would have a sweater or whatever, I probably would unrip that. But hats or mittens or things that I can turn into that, I often don't unravel, and sometimes that's in my stash for like half a year. And if I completely don't remember then what it was, I can still unravel it and reclaim the yarn. But until then, I just leave it. And if it gets too crinkly where you can't, where it affects the tension in your next knit, you can just hold it over steam or throw it in water and then hang it in the straight. Like, I have so many quilting rollers that I can kind of wind it over and dry it and then re-ball it or re-cake it. That's not a problem. How do you deal with any of these things? So let me know. Give this a like. Um, if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you next time. I wish you a wonderful day and happy crafting.